Okay, welcome back to the Grumpy Entrepreneur Show. So excited about this one. We have joining us today from Live Tech Games, the co-founders Samuel and Nathan. Welcome.
Hey, thank you, David.
Yeah,
Hi, David.
And as you can see, I'm sat outside. Apparently they can hear me. So I'm just going to go for a different setting for every video I do now to see how extreme I can go. So guys, welcome. Thank you for joining. Do you want to give us a 60-second pitch about what you guys are doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Who's going to do it? We take it in turns. Normally take turns. I'll have this one. So ultimately, at Live Tech Games, we're pioneering a whole new genre of mobile gaming. So it's all about live games. We call them appointment to play, but realistically, what we mean is these are games at set times, whether it be 7 p.m. in the evening, whether it be at lunchtime. Our games run in that moment. You have to be there at that moment or you can't play. And you basically join tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of other people at that same time in a really simple game. And you play that game against one other real person. So it could be me v you, David, or me v Sam. And we have 10 to 15 seconds to play that simple game. Whoever wins stays in the tournament and keeps playing with others. And whoever loses gets kicked out. So if you've got 100,000 players, after only a few seconds, we could have 50,000 people left in that tournament, and it keeps going down, down, down. We get that one winner, and it's a really, really exciting form of gameplay. And of course, it's completely pioneering in the sense of to have millions of people playing simultaneously. It's brand new, and we're really excited about the different types of games that we're making on top of a tech platform. So effectively, we need a lot of technology to run those types of games, and that's what we've been doing for the last 3 years.
Yeah, and as we were discussing earlier, you're a COVID baby, which sounds a bit slightly weird, slightly odd, but you are, aren't you? I mean, I remember speaking to you guys back in the late 2020 when you guys were kicking off. So look, first question, right? Going to show my age here. So my favorite games when I was a kid that kind of inspired me into computer games was the Atari version of Pole Position and the Acorn Soft version of Elite on the BBC Micro. So there you go. That is like proper retro, right? So which inspired me to build my game that I built when I was 11 years old. So go on then. What's your favorite games?
Yeah, I mean, can't compete with that. 11 years old and building your first game, David.
And I did it when it wasn't cool. So no one knew about it, and I actually got #2 in the charts, and no one knew about it. And my school didn't know about it until about 10 years ago when I told them about it. But yeah, geeks weren't cool then.
We might have to do a bit of research then, David, and get our team having a little look at that and giving you a little audit of the game. So I was going to say, Sam tells you his favourite game. Before we did jump on this call, we did do some research and have managed to find the source code. So we'll get that game back up and running for you on an iPad or something instead of a BBC Micro. But in terms of my favourite game, I mean, back in the day, I'll admit I was a huge RuneScape addict. I literally would just get home from school and play on RuneScape, so on my PC. And this was before things like in-app purchases were even a thing. You know, I was making purchases on eBay from other users to go and buy things for my player. So I just absolutely loved it. So yeah, back in the day, RuneScape, and today, obviously, our own games, number one.
Of course.
and then I now and again love playing things like Fall Guys or Warzone. Although I can't compete with my younger brother, he's just an absolute machine at those games nowadays, and I can't compete. I was never console. I never had consoles growing up, but I was very lucky to get an iPod Touch quite early. So I had that first generation of mobile games, and I loved the runners like Temple Run as a classic, or still to this day, I think one of the best games in terms of some of their sort of retention cycles, Jetpack Joyride. So if you haven't played Jetpack Joyride, that's a cracking mobile game.
There you go. Right. Okay. So next one, biggest disappointment. So when I was back, in the prehistoric ages, computer games used to have more time spent on the artwork for them than the actual game. So there was a kind of disappointment level sometimes after you'd loaded it up on cassette for like 6 hours or something crazy. What's gone then? Biggest disappointment in a game?
I remember having genuine disappointment where, again, back in the day, I was a huge Call of Duty World at War Zombies fan. Right. So I don't know if you played Zombies back then, but there was a few maps that were just
amazing. And me and my mate were just we were quite good at it. And then Black Ops came out, and they had a new zombies. And remember me and my mate going on to play that for the first time the day it launched, and it was just nowhere near as good as the previous one. So yeah, for me, World at War Zombies will never be beaten, and Black Ops Zombies was in comparison.
Maybe mine not being game specific. The first ever specific gaming device I had was a Nintendo DS, and the games.
Jesus Christ, you are making me feel so old. I mean, it's like that feels like it's like, oh my God, right? Okay, carry on.
I'm not doing it on purpose, David, I promise. But I remember having to save up. Like my dad would make me wash the car 5 or 6 times, and then he'd maybe go and buy me a game. And then at one point, there was a guy at school that would just sell you a card that went in the back that had 100 games on it. Yeah. And I thought this was absolutely amazing. I thought this is fantastic. And I went to sell my Nintendo on eBay with that card in, and I advertised it as it's got 100 games. And I actually got banned from eBay for selling illegal sort of pirate copies of games. And I genuinely thought I'd purchased games either.
That raises a story. So when I was into my gaming, similar thing, I used to save up for games and whatever, right? Various things. So when I was at my private school, this is the second time they tried to expel me. I used to sell pirate software at the age of 11 and 10 to all the other kids, basically. And the worst thing about it was, I can confess this, right, is that my father worked for Volkswagen at the time, and they used to do training modules on cassettes at the time. And he'd brought home something like 1,000 cassettes, and I changed all the things around so that it looked blank, so I could just write on what the game was. Obviously, it was carrying VW branding, which is like really bad, right? And my father didn't realize I was doing this. And I was basically doing orders because it was after the illegal tuck shop that almost got me chucked out the first time. And I was doing pirate games, and it was almost the end of my time at that school. But they wanted the money more than they probably wanted me there. So, but yeah, yeah, another story for another time. But yeah, it was entrepreneurial young
mindset from day one. That's all it is.
Yeah. If you could develop a live game version of any movie or TV show, what would it be?
I see. I have quite an interesting view on this one, particularly with Sam and I spending the last 3 years building live games, so those live at set times. The one that we used to shout at home on the TV was catchphrase. Say it as you see it. And the reason why I'd love to do that, I think, and I know we've had conversations, and maybe in the next year or so you might even see something from us out there, but I would love us to basically do the role reversal of that show, and rather than having one person on set,
very cool.
Families at home going, no, it's flower power or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think the people on the sofa at home should be the contestants, and have sort of 100,000, 1 million people, instead of shouting at their TV, actually trying to win the prizes. So that'd be mine.
That feels like a deal there, Nathan. I feel like there's a deal to be done there.
I'm putting it out there, David.
I think my one would be, did you ever see Takeshi's Castle or Total Wipeout?
Yes.
Yeah. So obviously they're all about assault courses, running through as quick as you can. And to Nathan's point at the start about the fact that we've built now this live gaming platform, I just love the idea of the fact that you could get matched with an opponent, and it's like an endless runner, like Nathan was saying. So the screen's coming at you, and you've got all these assault courses, and you're trying to navigate through them. And whichever one of the pair gets through it quicker goes through to the next round, and it gets harder and harder. I think that could have legs, actually.
It's another.
I think you've just done a bit of. I think we've done a bit of brainstorming. So my commission is etc. So that your games capture attentions for short bursts of time. We were talking about that earlier. I mean, I think you almost answered this actually when we were talking earlier. Have you thought about the potential for games designed specifically for really boring meetings, which we did touch on, or long queues at the post office?
I mean, funnily enough, David, actually, yeah. So back in lockdown, you might remember there was endless Zoom quizzes and things going on, for especially in companies, like the start of these team building days. You're like, oh, let's have a Zoom quiz. And at the time, we just launched our first game on the platform, which was a rock, paper, scissors tournament. So super simple. Anyone could play. You get matched up, play rock, paper, scissors. Winner goes through, loser's knocked out. And we ended up running multiple rock, paper, scissors tournaments for different companies as like something different to a quiz. So people would log on Zoom like we are now. And basically everyone would get the app, super simple to download. And then you'd be playing against everyone else in the call. And, in 5 minutes, 20 people get to one winner.
Brilliant.
And that would win an extra half a day annual leave and stuff. So it was super exciting. And yeah, we did run those for quite a bit, and then that matured into the pub quizzes we used to do.
Yeah, after lockdown, we actually went up to Newcastle and did sort of 5 or 6 bars during the Euros. So at half time, we'd speak to the bar manager and say, we want to put people to play this game at half time. Would you give away some free beers? And usually they'd get a bucket of beers or like a £30 drinks voucher, and we'd just get people to download the app and play at half time, just to sort of engage that dwell time. And then that's progressed all the way to, we were in LA with the SoFi Stadium and chatting to them about how you do that sort of thing, but on, you know, scale of 80,000, 100,000 people. So yeah, we're absolutely hoping to
I feel like we're giving IP away. I feel
it's all in process. It's fine.
This is made publicly available, is it, David? This is
So if a famous celebrity was going to play one of your games live on YouTube, who would you want it to be and why?
We'd have to go big. Go for the.
I don't say we've got to pick the big ones. I think the great thing about YouTube right now, especially when we look at games like ours, and the fact that, you know, you ultimately want retentive players, you want people that come back time and time again. If you go big and you look at the most loyal fan bases, you've of course got the Mr. Beasts of the world, the Sidemens, the whether it be groups, individuals, couples, anybody that just has that deep engagement with their audience, but also quite a light spell, I think would be really, really good for us. So
I think if the Sidemen were to play, you know, our sort of games on a live platform, I think that community would absolutely love it. So
right,
yeah,
there's another deal. Like it's just they just keep coming. Where's the weirdest place or time you found inspiration for a game?
is it wrong if we just say the pub? Because there's no
That's a good answer.
this business, we're 3.5 years in now, and it started at a pub in Reading. We'll shout out the Bell and Dragon. Lovely
Hello,
pub.
Bell and Dragon.
Good old Bell and Dragon. No, we were both at Microsoft before we started the business. So long day, nice summer night, getting towards where we are now in June, July, and we definitely had lots of ideas there. I must say, outside of that though, we don't go to any wacky places for ideas. We don't have a you know, some sort of hut somewhere in the
you don't sit in a desert and just you're not well, I think a pub in Reading is quite a good one actually. So
we always talk about we should go on an offsite.
Yes.
And then it just never gets organised. So, you know, we plan, let's have an offsite over in, you know, Norfolk.
When they do a TV program about the history of your business one day, when it's $billion, right? You have to buy the pub, number one, right? And you need to do a launch party at that pub.
At the Bell and Dragon.
And
Bell and Dragon Reading will be there.
How do you see the shift from on-demand gaming to live games kind of evolve in the next 5 years? Like, what's your view?
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge one for us. So if you think, you know, 20 years ago, there was no on-demand. You know, everything was live. You know, the biggest moments in entertainment were your live Saturday night television shows or your live sporting events. Then over the last 20 years, sort of everything has moved on demand. You know, everything you can access at the touch of a button, always on. And actually, in the last last 2 years, we're actually seeing a switch back to that live entertainment style. So, you know, cast your mind back to, you know, Netflix or Now TV. When their biggest shows used to come out, they used to upload every single episode of that show all in one go. So it was on demand. People can go and watch it whenever they like. And actually what they've seen from the data is they get way higher engagement when they drip feed those shows, you know, every week at a set time. People know, that next episode's out on Sunday, and they get a lot higher retention, engagement on those shows from doing that. Then there's other examples in other industries, like on the dating scene. You might have heard of Thursday Dating, that made their dating app only available on Thursdays. So again, set time rather than on demand throughout the week. Obviously, the big one at the moment on a social media side is Be Real. So Be Real have taken that always on, always scrolling sort of Instagram style, flipped it on its head and said, no, at a set time every day, just once a day, people can go on and take a photo and show what they're doing. So there's all these shifts pointing back to actually less is more. And so that's what we're doing on the gaming side, which is rather than our games being always available at any time, we just set them at once a day at that set moment. And actually, we make that choice through push notifications on the phone when users can actually play. And again, we're seeing way higher engagement levels of people actually saying, well, I can only do this once. It's part of my routine now. I'll go and play it, rather than if we were just an always on business.
I think it always comes down to, which is exactly what Sam said. Right now, most people, we finish this conversation, David, and the first thing they do is just open an app and scroll with no intention. And I think for us, what we're seeing, and through all that limited access, is you need a reason to pick your phone up and actually enjoy it, rather than using it to fill boredom. How do you actually use it as, I want to engage with this content right now? So I think Sam's absolutely right. That shift to live's coming. And even people that might not have realized it during lockdown, but Wordle is a great example of a game where it was you had that, you typed in 5 rows and you cannot play for 24 hours. Yeah. And that limited access makes you want to go back more. So I think that shift is well on its way, not just in gaming, but across the board.
No, it's a really interesting point. I mean, I get told off when Cobra Kai season starts because I want to watch it all, and my daughter, obviously, she's old enough to watch Cobra Kai. Oops. But she doesn't want to. She wants to drip fed like Disney Channel does with, mandolin and stuff like that, where you have to watch, on that bit. So it's an interesting one. So look, guys, I'm really conscious of your time. So look, how do you approach diversity and kind of inclusivity within your team, but also within your games as well?
Yeah, so I guess starting within the game. So, user preferences and things are massive for us. So, in the settings panel of the games, users can choose, thinking about things like epilepsy, if they want to dim the brightness of the colors or stop flashing and things like that. That's always been on the forefront of our mind. And then in terms of sort of general accessibility, we're designing games for the mass market, so for the general public. So all of our games are super casual, sort of swiping games, tapping games, finding games. So we design games in the spirit of trying to create something that anyone from a teenager through to our grandparents could actually get involved and play. And
I think on top of that, the app stores are actually, particularly Apple, are leading the way in mandating accessibility for games and other apps in terms of things like voiceover. All apps have to be able to work with voiceover. So if you're visually impaired, you can still engage or play and learn those sort of things. So I think they're definitely doing a great job as well.
Yeah. And then from a team perspective, I mean, we're genuinely very lucky that the gaming industry itself is incredibly diverse. So, the great news is, rather than a lot of typical back in the day software engineering things would be quite hard to find the diversity. It's just not the case in the gaming industry, where
I agree.
We've got talent from all over the world right now as part of our team. And in terms of proactive steps we take, I mean, we do general things like every time we make a job spec, there's this tool that we use to run through, make sure there's no bias in there. We make sure the recruitment process is, multi-stage with different people from our team involved at each stage to take away any bias there. So, it's not been a problem for us.
No, it feels like the gaming industry could lead the way for a lot of other areas of business, to be honest. It really does. You're right.
The genuine diversity of genres and types of games leads to a diversity of audiences, and of course that's then different all over the world. So you then have different people having different gaming experiences and different education and backgrounds, and ultimately when they all are connected by that one central industry, which is gaming, London particularly is a hub. So it's in a weird way, although we do take proactive steps, you often don't need to.
You
have to, which is a really great place to be, because you get everything, all that diversity of thought, without realistically having to look far and wide. London's a very great place to be for that.
Great. So, and last question for you. So if you had to be a character from any one of your games for a day, what would you choose, and what would be the first thing you do? Or it can be a game you love.
Yeah, well, in terms of our own games, obviously the players create their own players. So you play as yourself and things. But having said that, our design team have just introduced these new Poggle characters, which they give them actually a background and a name and everything. And one of them is called Pigeon Bread. And he's a pigeon There's actually a gangster on the streets, and he's got a piece of bread around his neck as like a big gold chain and necklace. So yeah, pigeon bread would be pretty cool for a day. But in terms of games I love, I think another game I used to absolutely be addicted to was the Lord of the Rings game, which self-confessed big fan. So Legolas is my all-time favorite. So I'd probably be Legolas for a day and just go around with my bow for sure.
That's a lot more retro and cooler than mine, to be fair. Given that the game I engage with most on my phone is my jetpack joyride, I do fancy a real life jetpack, I must admit. And I know a business that's creating real life jetpacks.
Well, there's a guy,
so,
Richard Browning? Richard
yeah,
Browning? Yeah.
I think they're called Gravity or something. So
I met him when he was still a banker at Canary Wharf.
Really?
When he was starting the project. He was introduced by a friend of mine called Laurie Pinto, and it's amazing what he's done, isn't it? I mean, it's just like, that is a cool toy.
Exactly. So if I want to take my gaming character and turn it real, I need to call Richard. So maybe there's an intro there.
It's got nothing on Legolas from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I sense Sam that you were a bit of a Dungeons and Dragon person.
Yeah, well, I wasn't.
Oh, you weren't?
No, RuneScape was my
Not the right genre.
Yeah.
So look, gentlemen, Nathan, Sam, thank you so much for your time. Great answers, and I could spend all day talking to you actually, but you got a business to run and build, and you're doing an amazing job. Everyone, I'll put a link to their business in the description. Go have a look. It's a great story. They're going to buy the pub in Reading one day, as make it like a HQ. And gentlemen, thank you so much for your time.
Awesome. David, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, David. See you soon.